So my name is Olanike Olugboji, and I'm the founder and program director of Women Initiative for Sustainable Environment. I've been doing this work for upwards of 17 years. Very passionate about the environment. And I'll just share my story, practically my journey into the world of environmental activism. And I would say that started way back from my childhood days, probably when I was about 5, 6 years. I grew up in the city, Kaduna State, northwestern Nigeria. And for me, having the experience of growing up in the city was such that I had access to clean drinking water, green environments, because I was privileged to grow up within the government reserved areas that had vast expanse of green areas, beautiful sceneries, and what have you. But as a child, each time I had the privilege to travel with my parents to other parts of Nigeria, particularly while traveling by road, I would see young women, young children, elderly women walking long distances. And a lot of times I'll be wondering where are they coming from, where are they going to? And most of the times you see this children and women carrying water, carrying firewood, fuel wood on their heads, stacks of firewood. And you know, these images stayed with me all through my childhood days. And then also realizing that, you know, there were disparities between the areas that were in the suburbs and the city where I grew up. I kept wondering and thinking to myself why these disparities existed. And as I grew up, I gained better insight, better understanding into what was happening. And so I always had it at the back of my mind that some of these challenges, some of these issues that I was seeing in relation to the environment, I should be able to do something about it someday. And incidentally, I studied urban and regional planning, first degree. And while at school, the same realities came face to face with me once again, seeing people, you know, not being able to live in harmony with nature. You find people throwing things out of their car. You find students, you know, living within very dirty environments and not even being willing to clean up. And so sometimes I'll just take the lead and initiate a cleanup and others will join me. And so I kept doing my bits until I graduated. Incidentally too, while in school, I was given an award as the neatest, the student with the neatest room. And that was really very exciting for me. And when I graduated, I started thinking, you know, like my childhood dream of doing things that will positively impact on the environment started coming back to me. And so I started thinking of launching an organization that would, you know, create awareness about some of the issues that matter to me. For example, the issue of solid waste management. Because you see a lot of times people driving on the roads and they just fling things out of their cars. You see households when it's raining season, people just feel it's time to dump their waste into the drainages with a mindset that the rains will just take this waste off somewhere. And then also with the images of the children who will walk long distances, the women who will walk long distances to go fetch firewood. And so I started thinking of how to solve virtually every environmental challenge that I came across, the issue of solid waste management, the issue of indiscriminate felling of trees, the issue of access to clean water. And so I was like getting muddled up trying to fix all these issues. And so I said, okay, to myself, maybe I should look for organizations who are also concerned about these issues, and then probably we could synergize and see how, you know, we could chart a way forward and get people to live more responsibly within the environmental space and also in harmony with nature. And interestingly, I didn't find any such organization, and that was way back in 2003. The only organization I heard of had left Kaduna State, where I was based. And so I came up with the Environmental Management and Protection Network and started looking out for organizations who would be willing, you know, to integrate environmental issues into their activities. But I still found none. And so I started writing to different bodies, UNICEF, the Kaduna State Environmental Protection Agency, and different bodies, you know, to see how I could pay them a courtesy visit and begin to share, you know, my ideas with them. But I found out that every environmental challenge I was interested in solving, you know, took me back to the doorsteps of women in the communities. You find out that a lot of women are responsible for tilling lands in their communities, doing all the farm work. And then there's the issue around land titles. They don't have the right to own those lands because of patriarchal cultural practices. And then when you look at the issue of access to clean water, women are the one who bear the burden of fetching the water. And sadly, most of these women have to go far distances to get this water from contaminated sources, because these sources are sometimes shared by animals. And most of these women were ill-informed about, you know, the fact that these sources were contaminated. And when the family gets sick, they bear all the burden. So you find out that these women spend productive hours fetching firewood. A lot of times when I'm talking about the issue of access to clean energy, a lot of women, over 70% of households in Africa, and still, as at today in Nigeria, still rely on the traditional methods of cooking, where the women have to rely on firewood, you know, to make fires for their cooking. And you find out that most of these women, we sit around the fireplace inhaling the toxic fumes, also ignorant of the health implication. And so I started thinking that it was time to re-strategize and get the women who are in these communities, elderly women, women, and then young females, you know, to be at the front lines of addressing these issues that affected their lives. And so Environmental Management Protection Network transited to Women's Initiative for Sustainable Environment. And the vision that we have is generally to, we envision a safe and just environment for everyone. But our mission is to advance constructive environmental ideals and practices by empowering people, especially women and young females, to address some of these issues that I've spoken about in terms of natural resource governance and also peace building, because we have a lot of interconnectedness between the environment and peace in my part of the world. And so we launched Women Initiative for Sustainable Environment in 2008. and then became legally registered in 2009. So on that platform, we've been advancing the rights, roles, and responsibilities of women in natural resource governance. Let me just go back to my slide so that more. So we have as our core value diversity, teamwork, equity, transparency, and accountability. And as part of our objectives, we promote the rights of people, especially women, to a safe and healthy environment. We project environmental laws and policies through enlightenment, monitoring, and evaluation. We promote gender and youth awareness and participation in environmental management and protection. We educate people on the link between environmental hazards and health, as well as the dangers that lie therein. We promote environmental activism and advocacy among women and girls. We encourage and project the integration of environmental education in school curricula. We project environmental management as a viable and lucrative venture. As time permits me, I'll be able to shed more light on that. And we discourage unfriendly environmental practices and promote the adoption of friendly options. And then we identify, introduce, and encourage healthy sanitary measures, conditions, and practices as it affects land uses. So basically what we do as an organization is we strengthen the roles grassroots women play in community resource management. And we have worked for over 16 years to mobilize these disadvantaged women, especially in Kaduna State, Nigeria, by addressing the number of environmentally destructive cultural practices in water and food supply, energy services, natural resource access, education, and waste management. And our programs deliver environmental awareness and education on climate change, conservation, energy, food, and water security, as well as sanitation and hygiene. We also teach peace and conflict resolution, micro-entrepreneurship, citizen journalism, empowerment 2.0, and digital empowerment. And to further support our efforts, we work with individuals, governmental and intergovernmental bodies, NGOs, CBOs, and other individuals and corporate organizations to develop environmentally sustainable initiatives that socially and economically empower women. I know I mentioned this, but at the core of the problem that we are basically interested in is the issue of drought, deforestation, erosion, flood, climate change, water shortage, food scarcity, poverty, and patriarchal traditions that cause women and girls to work harder to access and secure natural resources. So in my part of the world, women actually have restricted access to resources, information, and limited power in decision-making. And all this make them the most vulnerable to the impacts of environmental and security challenges. And these women are typically confronted with attitudes, systems, and practices that overlook and undermine their position, needs, and concerns, rights, roles, and responsibilities in natural resource protection and stewarding. So part of the solution that we are advancing as an organization, our programs deliver environmental awareness, training, and advocacy on climate change, conservation, energy, solid waste management, food, and water security. We also teach peace and conflict resolution, leadership, educational, financial literacy, micro-entrepreneurship, human agency, citizen journalism, and digital empowerment. And all these are focused on behavioral changes. And let me just move on to, of course, our target beneficiaries are women and young girls. when it comes to implementing developed initiatives, because they and their children remain the most vulnerable. Before I move on to our impacts, I would like to speak specifically to the issue of deforestation and access to clean energy, cooking energy for women. So the World Health Organization report released in 2013 states that Nigeria tops the list of countries where women are dying annually from smoke-related illnesses. As far back as then, between 93,000 to 98,000 Nigerian women were dying annually. And by our projections from 2015, at the least 120,000 Nigerian women were dying from smoke-related illnesses. And we found out that a lot of times when interventions are launched by the government and some other bodies, the worst affected people, who are women and girls, are not at the decision-making tables. And so you find out that the solutions that are brought to the front lines are not tailored to serve these women. And so our focus is on building the capacity of women, getting them informed so that they are better positioned to solve the problems that, you know, actually affect their lives. And this is at the center, at the core of what we do. This is why we care. We believe that the people who are most affected by this environmental challenges should be at the front lines of addressing these issues. So for me, as an individual, one of the things, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about what Technovation is doing with women and girls, and especially young girls who are exploring technology and you know, artificial intelligence to proffer solutions to the worst environmental issues that affect us. It's very important to see women and girls at the front lines of developing, you know, solutions that will help or reposition humanity in terms of how we live within the environmental space, how we utilize our resources and what have you. For me, as an individual, technology is one tool that has helped my work. Because when I launched my work as a young person, still in my 20s, a lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. A lot of people didn't understand why I would sacrifice, you know, exploring various opportunities that was afforded to me, you know, to take on my profession in urban and regional planning. But, you know, being focused and also having access to technology is one thing that has helped project my work, because as far back as 2015, I got found by Women's Earth Alliance, and I was invited to Mexico for a strategic meeting. And that singular opportunity has transcended into a relationship that has, you know, continued to empower the work that we launched on the platform of WISE. And so let me share a bit about the impact of our work. To date, WISE has directly engaged over 20,000 women and young females in our intervention projects. Our track record, key relationships, and vast network built over time has continued to give credence to our work, while also helping us to create pathways for scaling it up and sustaining it. And the demand for our programs continues to grow. We are limited in some ways, but you know, being able to follow my dream and also find other women and girls in my community who believe in the same cause, with whom I share the same vision, has helped continue to project this work. And over time, we have succeeded in developing a model that explores women's leadership, personal agency, economic empowerment, and peer mentoring as a sustainable solution to environmental problems. And this historic approach builds the capacity for these women to become environmental change agents. And it's through the deep interconnectedness of each component that they become pillars of society, changing the status quo for women and girls in terms of environmental practices within their communities. And through our programs, women are beginning to sow seeds of success, planting seeds to grow trees of change and pollinating those around them. And, you know, seeing a lot of the women that we work with beginning to gain recognition in their communities. For example, there's a particular woman who has become the first woman to be on the traditional council of a village because of a water intervention that we launched in her community. So I want to say that empowering women and girls to use technology, especially space technology and artificial intelligence for sustainable development is something that should be in the front burner. And I'm so excited to be connected with Technovation that is at the front lines of getting women and girls to explore these tools to solve some of the most pressing environmental challenges. And when we're talking about the issue of sustainable development, which is meeting the needs of today's generation without compromising the capacity or ability of the future generation to meet their own needs, it is great, you know, to see young girls exploring technology, you know, to drive solutions, you know, that will change the status quo, especially for women and girls across communities. And it should matter to every one of us because we have just one environment and we cannot afford to continue to, you know, be indifferent about things that are happening, how we are utilizing resources and how, you know, because what we give to the environment, of course, is what we get back. So when we drive solutions, when we put, you know, things that would help the environment out there, it will matter to a lot of other people. It will spur other people, you know, to also get up and do something. And there is no better time than now to get more women and girls on the decision-making table, on the tables where we can explore technology, you know, to continue to drive solutions. So it's great to share with us that our work has received quite a number of recognition, both locally and internationally, and the recognition just keeps coming. Just today, we received a letter from Enrich Bolt's Foundation acknowledging us as a key actor and also proposing to also work with us. So I want to say to every one of us that our actions matter. It matters now and it will matter tomorrow. So it's great that we all get our hands on deck. So I invite every woman and girl out there to say that the environment is ours and we cannot continue to be at the back lines. We should be at the front lines of advancing the solutions. Thank you.